Hey guys, we'll be doing example 4.8 from the study guide under the learning unit 4. Okay, so typically when you start with the question, you start with the required of the question to see what it is that you have to do. Okay, so we have to value the inventory as at 31 December 2019, and we also have to determine the value of the write-off that must be shown in the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income. Okay, so then you start to read through the scenario so that you can do some planning and see how you can structure your solution. Okay, so it's a very important part when dealing with questions is to say this information that you're about to go through now, how does it all translate into my solution? How do I effectively make a plan that is going to help me to provide the solution as efficiently as possible. Okay, so it says the following information was taken from the financial records of Compella Limited, a manufacturing company, on 31 December 2018. And then they give us the inventory and say it's note 5, and that comes up to 630,000. So as we can see, this is part of a bigger question, but it's really just trying to uh, explain or test a particular principle or one principle, which is an ability that you will need to have when coming to longer questions with much more information, is that ability to compartmentalize the information, the standard that has been tested, and the principles that apply to that particular standard. Okay, so here we can see that we are in IS2 inventory territory. Okay, so that is the bit of background that we need to just consider as we go through the information, so that we can pick up some of the key things that we're going to need in structuring our solution. Okay, so the additional information that is given to us is inventory at cost, and they say it consists of raw materials and work in progress. Okay, so those are the two inventory items that are listed here. Okay, so just a quick reconciliation is to say that the raw materials plus the work in progress, so that 380,000 of the raw materials plus the 250,000 of the work in progress gives us our 630,000. Okay, so we know that this inventory's then breakdown is those two items there. And then they come and they say, just before year end, there was a damage to the storeroom in which some inventory was stored. The damage resulted in 40% of the raw materials being damaged. It was determined that the net realizable value of the raw material that was not damaged is 15% below the cost thereof. Okay, and then none of the work in progress was damaged, and the net realizable value of the work in progress was estimated to be 280,000. Okay, so the principle that we're primarily dealing with here is that inventories are valued at the lower of their cost or net realizable value. If the cost is higher than the net realizable value, the inventory is written down to its net realizable value, and the difference is immediately recognized as a loss or expense in the income statement. Okay, so that is the principle that is being tested here. That is the rule. Okay, so the rule will have certain exceptions at different times. However, this is the main thing. This is what you need to know, and this is what you need to be looking out for in your preparation. Okay, so then again, it's just another extract from the study guide. Is more about the triggers. Okay, so how do you then identify the need for the write down? Okay, and then they say that A new assessment of net realizable value is made at each financial year end, and adjustments might be as a result of damaged inventories, obsolete inventories, decline in selling prices, increase in the cost to complete the products, and increases in the selling cost. Okay, so those are the triggers that we'll need to write down. So already coming back to the information, we see that there is a trigger of damaged inventories, and that damaged inventories affects the raw materials. Okay, and then when looking at the work in progress, we see that they say that the net realizable value of the work in progress was estimated to be 280,000. Okay, so with that principle of recognizing the net realizable value for the work in progress, um, we say it's written at the lower of cost. So now you want to compare the cost and the net realizable value. So in the instance where the cost is lower than the net realizable value, then you go with the cost figure. Okay. So since the work in progress was not affected, in our scenario, then we can go right out and say that the work in progress will be the 250,000. Okay. So that is because there was no trigger for it to be written down. The work in progress, they say none of the work in progress was damaged. Okay, so there was no damage, no trigger to write it down. And then when looking at this net realizable value of the work in progress, we see that it is higher than the cost. So therefore, we keep the cost of 250,000 for it. And then we're done. Okay, so that part, that aspect is done. Okay, so now you get to deal with the one that actually did get the write-off. Okay, so I mean, this is just a high-level structure of something that you would need to prepare when you're about to just to start a question. Just an idea, just a plan for yourself. To structure the calculations and work out the items that you need. Okay, so obviously there would be specific requirements for our statement of financial position will be presented. Okay, and which items go away, which line items affect which side, and I mean also for the statement of financial position. It has a set structure to which we must follow. So in our case, we know that, okay, we're only dealing with inventory here, which will be sitting under current assets in our statement of financial position. Okay, but they're not asking us to compile a whole statement of financial position. It's just this aspect here that they're wanting us to value. So it's always good for yourself to, or it will be good for you. It's a good habit to start to develop a structure in which you are going to have your workings. Okay, so the easier you structure your workings, the easier it will be to then populate these items, especially when you have these big integrated questions that are going to come in that test multiple standards. Okay, you will then need to be able to just categorize your workings with the items that are required, and then make it easy for yourself to carry forward to the statements that you need to present. Okay, all right, so it's a good habit to just start early with it and know how to do that. But I mean, typically it will follow the structure that you will see here in the information. So you see over here that this is an extract from the financial records, and then they give you the total inventory, and then the additional information, which is the breakdown of how this inventory is, or what it is that we're looking for here. It's typically you would want to follow a similar type of structure when answering questions. So it makes it easier for you to now recognize that when you're doing a question, this is what's important, this is how I need to structure it. So let my workings more or less align to the structure of what I'm trying to produce. Okay. All right. So, I mean, it's just something that comes with more practice, and obviously that you can structure it in your own way, but just do it in a way that it will be easy for a marker to follow and be able to award you these marks, and where they can clearly see your calculations, your workings, and they clearly reference, then you start to generate mark. Okay. All right. So then we've got the damage here of the raw material. Okay. So they say 40% of the raw material was damaged. All right. And then 60% was not damaged. Okay. So just to start there, taking it step by step, we say now that there was the total amount of the raw materials before the damage is 380,000, and then we say that of that 380,000, 200 and let me just check if I've got, yes, so of that 380,000, 60% of it was not damaged. Okay, so that's where that one is coming from. All right, that 380,000 times 60% was not damaged. Okay. Maybe let's put it this side. Say damage here, and then not damaged. Okay. Right. So so not damage was 60%, and then damaged was 40%. Okay. So all of it will be written off, and then we'll essentially have 0 for this amount. Okay. But then in the question they say that the raw material, net realizable of raw material that was not damaged, was 15% below the cost thereof. Okay, so the write-off amount there will be 15%. This amount times the 15%. Okay, that's the write-off figure. Okay, so then the final value, so this one was destroyed, so the damaged ones were destroyed, so they won't have a write-off. It will be complete write-off in terms of damage. Okay, so then our final amount here will then be 60% remaining minus the write-off of 193,800. Okay, so then our final value for the raw materials will be the 193,800. Just make that green. Okay, so I already had a formula here that took out the write-off amount, which is that 34,000, and then the damaged amount as well, which we will not really recovering, 152,000. So that's how much we will write off the raw materials. So what then is remaining in that instance is the raw materials plus the work in progress, and that gives us the final value of inventories. Okay, right. So that is pretty much what we have to do. So in summary, again, just to structure your question, understand the principle that has been tested, and then look out for these triggers for damaged and obsolete inventories. Okay.